Chapter 5, the climax. So the most important clash takes place in chapter 5. That which up to this point everything's been leading towards. We find the final conflict between Snowball and Napoleon in their struggle for leadership in this chapter. And it culminates eventually in Napoleon driving Snowball from the farm, right? How does he use it? Importantly, he uses his pack of dogs. The dogs that he'd been training are now big, they are vicious, they've been trained by him, and he just uses the pack of dogs to drive him off the farm. And he declares publicly that the power to make decisions on the farm will now be solely handled by the pigs. So let us have a look at the power struggle between Napoleon and Snowball and how the two of them operated. Snowball proclaimed that he wanted to improve the farm and the standard of the living by the building of the windmill. It is Snowball's plan to industrialize the farm, making it easier for the animals to do their work. Napoleon, on the other hand, declares that he will have nothing to do with any plan to build a windmill. He says there are more pressing issues, and it's, for instance, the production of food. That's what he says. And he declares that he will have nothing to do. So Snowball now claims that the windmill will save labor for the animals. It'll be much easier for them. And Napoleon says that no, that's not important enough. There are more pressing things. Food production comes first. Napoleon also wants a better defense against outsiders. He wants to keep the humans out, for instance, the external threats. Whereas Snowball feels that it would be better if they actually spread the rebellion. Now, what is important to understand in terms of Snowball's expulsion is that Napoleon seemed unfazed by all of this. He stood back and allowed Snowball to make passionate speeches, to tell everybody about this wonderful plan, about the windmill and so forth. What does he do? He just stands back. But why? He is secretly working on his tactics. He knows that pretty soon he is going to have the ultimate tool here. He's going to have his secret police. He's going to have the team of dogs. And he just decides, I'm not bothered. I'm just going to work on my tactics and then wait for the right moment. So he carefully trained his puppies to become his loyal protectors. And also he made use of the bleating of the sheep to stop any distraction, to undermine Snowball's speeches. He shows public disrespect for Snowball's efforts by urinating all over the plans for the windmill. Because his strategy of getting rid of Snowball was complete. He doesn't even go to the meeting where the animals now supposedly were supposed to vote for or against the building of the windmill. He didn't even arrive at the meeting because it was not important. What he does is he drives Snowball off the farm very simply by putting his pack of dogs on him, and then Snowball has to disappear. Now, then of course, as I said, that is the climax. When Snowball is driven off the farm, in allegorical terms, Snowball will be Trotsky. But so when that happens, it starts the beginning of the falling down the falling action, because it is also yet another stage in the debasement of language, where individual initiative is dispelled and autocratic rule is introduced, right? Freedom of thought and expression are suppressed. Blind allegiance is encouraged. And the animals are told that they should stick to the formulas enforced by the language used to reinterpret and rewrite history. So this whole new phase of using manipulative language starts here when Napoleon comes into power and they start to rewrite history. In other words, using words to change facts from the past. And of course, Squealer is the main agent for this revision, and he has the eloquence to do it too. He blackens Snowball's reputation. That's the first thing he does. Now Snowball is everything that's bad. He belittles his achievements, and he relies heavily on slogans and large abstract notions such as discipline and bravery and loyalty in addressing the animals. So he confuses them with his language. He paints Napoleon, on the other hand, in the most flattering colors. The facts are just turned around. Napoleon was a hero. Snowball was the villain. And Napoleon's dictatorial action is portrayed as being self-sacrificing, which once again is one of those illogical things to say. But yet he says it so eloquently that the animals become so confused they're not sure what they believe anymore. So we see basically that in this power struggle between Snowball and Napoleon, Napoleon was the treacherous one. He was the one with the secret tactic, the secret plan to get rid of Snowball without even lifting a finger. And he emerges, of course, as an utterly corrupt opportunist. Remember how he took the first milk for his own use, and we said that was a foreshadowing? Now we think back, remember that. And he's actually that very same opportunist that he was from the beginning. But now it's all clear. He doesn't contribute to the revolution in any way. He doesn't even get into the struggle. Even like I told you before, he is only mentioned once in the Battle of the Cowshed. And basically he also just stood back because other people could do the dirty work for him. And his only interest now in the strength of the concept of animal farm and animalism is the fact that he can secure his power over it. And power now is a big concept that comes into play. He just wants power, right? His pains in training the puppies to become attack dogs was not to secure the farm for defense purposes, for instance, but just to gain the power that he so wanted for himself. He wanted to impose his own will on others, and he's going to use the dogs more and more and more to remain in that powerful position. We also see other subtle changes here. We see Napoleon, ironically, speaking from the platform from which Old Major made his first inspiring speech, right? So remember, Old Major was a spokesperson for the animals. Now Napoleon is the one who speaks, but he's not speaking for the animals. He's only speaking for himself. So ironically, he speaks from the same platform, right? He calls off, note well, the Sunday debates. So what does the debates mean? It means that people actually talk about things, that they can voice opinions, but no more opinions. And we have seen how this has gradually happened through language and debilitating the animals more than helping them along through language. And he announces that orders will now be given by the Committee of Pigs only. There will be no debate. What's the point of debate? There will be orders, and only from the pigs. So this is now how it's going to be on Animal Farm. Now, Squealer, of course, being the mouthpiece, the propagandist, being Napoleon's propagandist, suggests, in fact, that it will be dangerous for the animals to have or offer opinions. So can you see the threat there? And because he says it's dangerous because, you know what, if you are to act on the pig's orders only. So if you have an opinion, you must be careful because remember what happened to Snowball, right? If you want to face the same fate as Snowball, try offering an opinion. And now, of course, Napoleon being in this position of ultimate power and with the threat of the dogs around him, nobody can actually go against him anymore. And he now announces that the windmill will be rebuilt. The windmill that fell down will be rebuilt. And the idea and the plans are said by Squealer to have been Napoleon's all along. It was never Snowball's. Can you see? History gets distorted. It was never Snowball's opinion. It was actually Napoleon's wonderful plan to build this windmill. And now they're going to rebuild the windmill. And Squealer says that, all of this, the misunderstanding that might have, happened here is all because it was just Napoleon using very clever tactics to get rid of Snowball. And so he talks and he uses a lot of big words and concepts that the animals don't understand. Language is distorted, and the poor animals are totally confused. They can't even remember anymore because they are also told that Snowball was actually the traitor and that Napoleon fought so hard in the Battle of the Cowshed, etc. And then the animals, some of them seem to remember a little flashback of this and that, but they were so confused by words that they couldn't actually defend their thoughts. So we see with the assumption of power by Napoleon, can you see how after the climax of Snowball being thrown off the farm, we now see the beginning of the falling action, the results of this climax. And from this point onwards, of course, we'll see the threat of the dogs and the sheep's compulsive refrain, singing, bleating, 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. How these severely restrict, it is restrictive, and it restricts the independence of thought, the independence of speech or action. You have to just follow the rules, otherwise feel threatened. So what happens now in the beginning here with the falling of the action, we see Napoleon becoming the totalitarian ruler, using fear and manipulation as tools only in order to secure his power, right? So the quality of the animals' lives now deteriorate rapidly, but they are led to believe through language and manipulative slogans and sayings from Squealer that they are led to believe the opposite, that the opposite is true. So for the next lesson, make sure that you read chapter 6 very well.